Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your home for Bible study that's fresh and delicious. It's organic. It's artisanal. It's just good for you. No MSG, no GMOs. Just going to be good stuff. That's all we're going to have here. Today, man, we got some good stuff. Verses 28 through 31. Now, I've included 31 in this section, but really 31 and 32 are a section unto themselves. This is the next what he has done part. Now, we've had that. We're kind of gone back and forth, between what you have done and what he has done. So he's spoken to the Lord, and then he's spoken to the reader, then he's spoken to the Lord, and now he goes back in 31 and 32. He's going to speak to the reader again. But before we get there, we have to end this what you have done part. Now, we've been there since verse 20. Verse 20, he began with, Thou makest darkness, and it is night. We come to verse 28, and let's just read 28 through 31. That thou givest them, they gather. Thou openest thy hand, they are filled with good. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled. Thou takest away their breath, they die, and return to their dust. Thou sendest forth thy Spirit, they are created. Thou renewest the face of the earth. The glory of the Lord shall endure forever. The Lord shall rejoice in his works. Now we come to verse 28, and we're still in this what you have done section. And notice now that we're not just talking about the manifold goodness of God in the way he cares for all that he has created, but now we're talking about his sovereignty over all the things that he has created. So it's one thing to talk about creation, but if you talk about creation separate from sovereignty, then you really don't have a biblical view of the whole created order, because God is doing a work in creation. He made it. He oversees it. He provides for it, yes, but his sovereign hand rules creation as well. You'll notice verse 28. Thou givest them, they gather. So we understand that it is from the Lord who provides water and food for all the beasts of the field, for everything in the oceans. He gives it, they gather it. And when I read that, the first time I read that, I thought about the whales. I don't know why I thought about whales, but I thought about whales in the ocean and the ones that are filter feeders, and they eat krill, those little bitty tiny shrimp. And, the whales, when there's a bloom in the krill population, the whales will gather up as much as they can, and they'll take turns eating those great big schools of krill. So God gives them, and the whales, when it comes to krill at least, they gather them. And that's wonderful. That's the goodness of God expressed there. Thou openest thy hand, they are filled with good. Now notice we get a little bit closer to the idea of sovereignty here, don't we? It is God's hand that provides. So he could not open his hand and withhold, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, but here he opens his hand and they're filled with good because God provides for them. Verse 29, you hide your face, they are troubled. Thou takest away their breath, they die, and return to their dust. So the Lord can withhold his face and take away their breath. That's the sovereignty of God. He decides. He's the one that oversees that. Thou sendest forth thy Spirit, they are created. He decides that as well. And thou renewest the face of the earth. So the Lord behind the scenes, through creation, is not just letting it run. He's actually actively involved in the entirety of the thing that he's made. And then we come to verse 31, the glory of the Lord shall endure forever, the Lord shall rejoice in his works. Now this ends the what you have done section and begins this what he has done section. So now he's starting to turn his attention to the reader. The glory of the Lord shall endure forever, dear reader. The Lord shall rejoice in his works. So he's speaking now to us. Join me tomorrow. We're going to look at 32 through 35, which will end this psalm. And we have some wonderful things here. You don't want to miss tomorrow's podcast. Make sure you tune in. I'll see you then on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.